So I'm going to tell a story that should be pretty familiar to a lot of you, and it's a story about why I don't work for that company anymore and what I've been doing with myself since leaving a couple of years ago in 2010. A wise man once said that it's more fun to be a pirate than to join the Navy, and at a certain point, the pirates become the new Navy, and you got to go pirate somewhere else for a while. So I decided that that's what I was going to do, and I took a trip that would take me to the ends of the world, literally to the end of the world. That's their branding. It's the last city in the world. If you go any further south than that, there's a couple settlements and Antarctica. That's about it. I took a year off. I took a world tour, and I wanted to see how people did things, how people did excellent things, not just the familiar names of the Western world, but also how people did things on the other parts of the world. Spent a significant amount of time, for example, in Asia. I didn't just want to see the way that people survived in the developed world, and that's all very interesting. I also wanted to see the way that people were surviving in the rest of the world. And I wanted to make some decisions about what I wanted to do with myself and where I wanted to do it. To do that, you have to see things, everything. You have to see the way that people solve the same problem in different ways. You have to see the way that systems can be completely inconsistent with each other, but as long as they're self-consistent, then the systems themselves will work. And more than anything, I just wanted to get a new perspective. Being in the United States, especially being in Silicon Valley, you have this tendency to think that you understand everything because you understand what's happening right there, and right there is everything. But there's a lot of perspectives in the world, and this was, for me, the place for perspective. This is where this picture is. Of course, everybody here probably recognizes this picture. You probably were standing right there this morning on your way here. So that led to the foundation of Amsterdam. It's been almost 2 years now at this point since we started Amsterdam. The idea of Amsterdam was very simple. It was just taking all of the information gleaned about how this stuff works and actually putting it into practice in a place where theoretically you should yield some kind of geographical origin of innovation, kind of willing Silicon Valley to exist, if you will. And of course, there are a lot of places in the world that would will Silicon Valley to exist, but it doesn't seem to be happening. And I think that fundamentally comes down to a misunderstanding of Silicon Valley and where it comes from, and therefore how you create it. You look at Silicon Valley and you see all of this investor money, and you say Silicon Valley is what happens when you take a big ball of money and you put it on a city. And so a bunch of cities with big balls of money got together and did that, and they found somehow the innovation isn't happening. And the reasoning for that is pretty simple. I mean, if you have a big ball of money sitting there like a blister, you're going to attract essentially the mosquitoes of innovation. You're going to attract the people who hear about a big ball of money and decide that they'd like to siphon some of that off for themselves. And that's not where Silicon Valley comes from. Kleiner Perkins did not establish Silicon Valley in 1971 when they set up shop there on Sand Hill Road. Kleiner Perkins found a place where innovation had been happening already for 20 years. The children of engineers who located in California after World War II to work on radar systems, these children would go on to Stanford or just in their parents' garages and build things that had never been seen before. Things like a computer that would fit on a desktop. Not because there was money to be had, but because it was the 70s, man, and people were smoking weed and thinking about things in a different way, and saving the world seemed like the thing to do. And that's what people were trying to do. There's a bunch of crazy kids trying to save the world, trying to make their dent in the universe, not because there was money in it, but because it was a universe to be dented, because that's how people felt in the 70s. And we see this return to this time, right? I mean, what a thing to have the Club of Rome on stage. Like, I'm just reading about this book, Limits to Growth, this sort of nouveau Malthusian way of thinking. I say that jokingly, of course. It's not Malthusian at all. It makes perfect sense. I mean, sinks, right? It's obvious. Sinks. Where's the carbon going to go? It has to go somewhere. But understanding that requires an understanding of some fundamental science. And that was the problem that I wanted to solve next. I mean, Amsterdam, it is what it is. Amsterdam.rs. We meet every Wednesday at Cafe Bucks in the Old West. We have 3-4 innovation activities going on a week. I don't even know. I don't even keep track of it anymore. Like, it's the community runs itself at this point. I show up, I say a couple of nice things, and I set people running. It's just, it's its own thing. It's its own organism. We solve problems without even trying. I mean, in technology around the world, people talk about how do we get more women in technology? How do we get more than 2 women to show up to a technology event? We have like 40, 60% sometimes. We have more women than men at some of these Amsterdam events. And to us, it's not hard at all. Like, just stop discriminating against people, and people will generally tend to show up. And we tend to say in technology, we don't discriminate against anybody. We're not discriminatory, but we are discriminatory, right? I mean, sit around with a bunch of engineers and hear what they have to say about people in business. Hear what they call people who wear suits. Hear what they call people with money. I mean, at the end of the day, the opinion that we have about, for example, people in marketing affects how many women show up to these things. Because when women go to the computer club and it's full of sweaty men, and they turn around and they go to the marketing club. And so when we say, women are welcome as long as they're not in marketing, where do you think they all are? Marketing. And elsewhere. I mean, it's the point, right? The point is not that women are in marketing. The point is that women are everywhere. And if you want women and people of different skin color or any other definition of humanity you want to come up with to show up, you just have to make everybody feel welcome. It's one of the things that we do so well here in Amsterdam is we make everybody feel welcome. We have lots of different people with lots of different perspectives, and somehow, through all the madness and insanity, that makes us stronger. We don't know how, but it seems to work pretty well. So we have lots of women in Amsterdam, and the Amsterdam movement has spread. I mean, it started here in Amsterdam, but it's not about building a wall around the city. We did that, and it didn't work, and we tore it down, and we've done pretty well since. This model has scaled. It's spread to Italy, it's spread to Greece, it's spread to Poland, even the United States. San Francisco, Silicon Valley has its own Amsterdam chapter at this point. They see what we're doing here, and they like it. They like it a lot. So what's next? Amsterdam everywhere. Fantastic, we win. What's next? Well, inevitably, the first question is, well, where are the companies? Where are the products? Where is the innovation coming out of this innovation community? What have I heard of? And that's what I decided to work on next. And so, I think in last April is when I stopped running the day-to-day operations of Amsterdam. Took about a month off to sleep, and then went to California in June for my my annual return to California, Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, and then started my next project. And I've never shown it to anybody, and we're actually pushing it out to the App Store as soon as I'm off of stage. So I thought I would demo it for you a little bit. So the company is called The New Lemurs, or for the benefit of the Dutch speakers, De Nieuwe Makkies. Of course, the lemurs are the animals native to Madagascar, and I've always felt like Madagascar is a wonderful microcosm for the rest of the planet. If we can save the lemurs, we can save the world. That's the idea. So I made a game, we made a game, built a team out of stalwart Amsterdammers, and we made a game about chemistry. And it's just a fun puzzle game. It's not really educational in the sense that it's not made by educators and it doesn't feel like learning. It's just a game in the regular sense. And it's a game in the regular sense because it's fun. It's just that the game rules happen to be the rules of chemistry. So when you discover the game, when you play the game, when you solve the puzzle, and when you figure things out, you're not just solving a game for the purpose of solving a game, you're actually learning something about chemistry. It doesn't feel like learning, but it's learning. That's the idea. And I'd like to show it to you all for the first time ever, right now, if I may. The game is called Lemurs, Chemistry, Water, because it's about lemurs, chemistry, and water. Here we have molecules. They're magnified a couple billion times, and they're slowed down. I have some plants. You can water the plants. The plants will grow. I swear I didn't plan this with the Innovation Awards. If I had, they'd be blue. There is a blue one in there. You can hopefully get to it. And this is it. You might recognize this if you ever took a chemistry class. This is the burning of hydrogen in air to make water. This is what it looks like, 1 billion times bigger and 1 billion times slower. Chemistry that you can actually put your fingers on. Chemistry that you can understand not in terms of a bunch of equations, but chemistry that you can understand in terms of things that you can actually physically manipulate. Chemistry that literally has a face that will blink at you. And if you get this for your kids and their friends watch them, they can go ahead and throw in, right? It's not like Angry Birds where you have to just watch. You can actually have all the fingers you want on here, playing the game together, cooperating, enjoying, and ultimately, whether it feels like it or not, learning. It's like food that is both nutritious and delicious. You don't have to choose. You just have fun and live a good life, and somehow things get better. And that to me is innovation.